Hi there, and welcome to the Mindful Marathon podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk, a run coach and pediatrician. Mindful Marathon is all about helping runners of all types to run their own race. Whether you are a seasoned runner or you're just getting started, I want to let you know that you're welcome here and that you're in the right place. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I have a very special guest with me today, one of my colleagues in pediatrics. Today, I'm here with Dr. Susan Daniels, who is a pediatrician in Bozeman, Montana. Inspired early in life by her father's brain cancer journey, she has dedicated her career to independent pediatric practice, medical education, and leadership roles within the American Academy of Pediatrics, the AAP. Beyond clinical medicine, she serves as founding president of the Montana Mindfulness Project to teach meditation to patients, educators, and first responders. So, Dr. Daniels, welcome to the show. I'm very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to get to talk to you.
Yeah. When you filled out the questionnaire for the podcast, you mentioned that you would like to talk about being an awkward runner. And I immediately smiled because I think there's lots of conversation behind that. Anyways, just a bit of background for everybody. Dr. Daniels recently had me on her wonderful podcast, the Still Practicing podcast. And we were talking about movement as a pathway through burnout. And anyway, I think your experience and maybe seeing yourself as an awkward runner is a great place to start. So, what does that mean for you?
Mm. I ran in college, not competitively, but with a good friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
Is a very serious runner, and I would run with her just a couple of times a week. And it was very enjoyable, in great part because it was very social.
Yeah.
I remember that time as never being associated with any kind of runner's high. It was always a bit arduous feeling, but still enjoyable enough that we continued that routine for a whole year. And then the man who would ultimately be the best man in our wedding saw me running and commented that I had a very weird style of running,
Oh,
which I
okay.
wasn't really aware of before that. And it wasn't the reason I quit running, it was more that my good friend moved away. But
Okay. Okay.
I have not ever forgotten that comment either.
Hmm.
And yeah, I guess I'd probably be a little bit self-conscious if people see me running, unless, of course, I were in a Minnie Mouse tutu with some white gloves, then I might not be too worried.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. I don't know. I feel like everybody has such a different gait. Yeah. People ask me all the time, is there a certain way people talk about like how you strike your foot, a heel striker versus a toe striker, and all these things. And I'm like, for most of us who are not elite athletes, it probably doesn't matter. It's really if you're running and you're enjoying it and not getting injured,
Yeah.
you don't really need to necessarily change anything. But I imagine I don't know, there's so many different body shapes and types and how people
Mhm.
run, so I'm sure a lot of people think that they have an awkward gait, but I don't know if it really is.
Yeah, no, I don't know if it really is either, and I'm sure you're right, so many variables around joint flexibility and muscle power and whatnot, but I certainly could move down the road, so it wasn't really making it an unsuccessful endeavor anyway.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it now, do you have an idea in your head of what a runner is supposed to look like? I don't know.
Yeah, I probably don't highly identify
Mm.
myself a runner type.
Yeah.
I'm not very long. I'm not terribly lanky. I'm 5'2",
Me too.
and yeah, are you? Oh,
Uh-huh.
I can tell that sitting here talking. Yes, I think of them as being long and lanky and highly energetic folks maybe, but also have enough self-compassion at this point in my life to know that how I looked running in college or how I might look running now is not very important. And it's really more about exploring new things and uncovering new delights
Mhm.
and new fun things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you identify as a swimmer,
Yeah.
and when you and I talked recently, I was describing some of what I so love about being in the pool and swimming laps, and you were saying that for you, there's a lot of that in running too.
Mhm.
And that really had me thinking, especially because the pool's not always accessible and running seems more.
Yeah, yeah. I I don't think I realized that I would have that same feeling swimming. Like, I came to swimming because I had a running injury. This was, like, a long time ago, maybe 10 years
Mhm.
ago. I sprained my ankle in the gardening, and I couldn't run for a while, so I went to the pool. But after I think at the beginning, it was hard because it was something I wasn't regularly doing, but once it got to be easier and I started to do it more, I started to have some of the same feelings that I have when I'm on the trail, and as long as yeah, as long as I can just focus on 1 or 2 things at a time,
Mhm.
it has
Mhm.
some of the same effects, and you're right, getting to the pool, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Have to
The
shower
2
after, yeah.
in the pool, out of the pool, yeah, it is a whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I have not been running in any significant way since college, maybe a little bit in med school, really not for a long time, and my interest is piqued, and I'd like to try it out
Yeah.
and do it in a way that I don't get hurt, that would be
Yeah,
good. I
yeah,
think
number 1, yes.
as long as we don't overdo it from the beginning, I'm hoping I won't get hurt doing it, and I will say, Run Disney really lights my fire, like,
Yeah, yeah.
if I had known that existed, I would have been running more.
Yeah. I feel like that was really my gateway into the longer distances because that
Yeah,
was, like, the first half marathon I did, and I think that even if I had done our local race, like the Philly half marathon or something, I
yeah,
think I we still would have had the same outcome, but I think that I do have quite a love of Run Disney because of that
yeah,
entry
yeah.
point.
I agree. That just brings a whole different level of dopamine to the party.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, you might not get your dopamine from your runner's high, but you'll get it from seeing Minnie and Mickey on the side of the course, no doubt.
Yes, yes. So I at the end of our chat, or the last time we chatted, we were talking a lot about burnout in medicine and demanding seasons of life and things like that. And we were just chatting about how movement kind of fits into that picture. And I would like to hear maybe a little bit about your journey with burnout and if movement fit into that for you.
Yeah, yeah. I had a really sweet gig going. I have owned my practice almost since the beginning of being in pediatric medicine. And so I've been able to build the practice that I wanted to work in
Mhm,
and work with the people I most want to work with.
mhm.
And I definitely saw burnout as a problem of other people. I just did not ever think because of those sorts of choices that I had made that I would ever confront that.
Yeah.
But then the pandemic happened, and that created a lot of additional stressors as a business owner and as a pediatrician who was almost 50 at the time. And of course, there was just a lot of unknown in the beginning, and it created
Yeah.
a lot of stress and also led to some staffing changes among providers and a need to hire that didn't go very well. And it just all stacked up.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
I found myself in 2022 really sad and discouraged about the way my life was set up. That I felt at the time I had donated too much of my time and energy to work
mhm.
and not made enough room for other things. And I didn't even really realize at the beginning that it was burnout. It just wasn't even a word that came to my mind,
Yeah,
but started to think I needed to quit. And I couldn't really imagine any other possibility. I might have thought, well, if I could change this or if I could change that, but then immediately my brain would say, but that's impossible. You
yeah,
can't have the kind of practice you have and not be available full time or take a sabbatical or have more time away. All those seemed just totally impossible.
Yeah.
So I started seeing a therapist, and it didn't take her very long to wonder, did I think that I was maybe experiencing burnout? And it was a kind of real revelation. It felt sort of good because before that, I just felt, "Ooh, there's something wrong in me," which of course was still true, but somehow it was a comfort to feel like it was a recognizable, understandable, treatable condition that I was not as alone in as I felt. I felt like I was the only pediatrician. It was such a gift of a career. You get to take care of kids and
Yeah.
support their parents, and in my practice, you get to know them for the whole course of their entire childhood, and what's not to love?
Yeah.
I felt like I was the only pediatrician suffering and feeling like I needed to quit, which
You were
feels
not,
to be
and you are not.
is how it felt at the time. And at the time, I wasn't prioritizing much of anything other than work
Mhm.
because of the labor of coming through COVID
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
trying to put that all together and meeting the needs of the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not in the water near as much as I know is good for me. That has been true my whole life. I have been a fish since I was a tiny, tiny child.
Mhm. Mhm.
And my family are all fish, and I wasn't tending to that or much of anything else. And once I was able to start to see that I could make changes in my practice,
Mhm.
that I could maybe craft my career in a way that would make me not feel like leaving it, not have to leave it, but to not feel like I want to leave it. Once I got some of those pieces in order, then I started to really
Mhm.
try to equally prioritize the importance and the value that I feel like my professional life gives me
Mhm.
with exploring new things and making time for fun or things that might be fun, trying things out. And instead of thinking, "Oh, that's for a later date," I've really tried to say, "No, these are equally important," or maybe my career has had so much of my attention, maybe this is
Mhm.
even more important now,
Yes.
and I've been back in the water a lot more. I have told people when they ask for a long time, I kinda define success personally, in part based on how many days a year I am in the water, and particularly the
Yeah.
last couple years, how many years I'm in the Washougal River in Washington, which
Oh,
is
okay, okay.
this beautiful, pristine waterway that is full of mergansers, which are these
Mhm.
really cool kinda ducks, and they have little orange floofy babies,
Oh, yeah.
and they're very picky about the waterways that they'll select to live in,
Mhm.
and, yeah, I'm just trying to build components of my life around being sure that I get to be in the water, which also means being with family and being with
Mhm.
friends.
Mhm. Yeah, you're
Mhm.
crafting it
The
and making time for it, which I love. I
Mhm.
think a lot of us, I certainly can relate to just losing a little bit of myself and all of those hobbies and interests that I had. Like thinking back, like I loved college and I loved just dabbling in lots of different things and writing and English. And I don't know, medical school, there just wasn't time. And then you're so focused on the goal that everything else seems to fade into the background. But it's
Yeah.
hard to get it back. You have to make the conscious effort and
Yeah.
decision to do that.
Yep. Yeah, and realizing that not doing those things was contributing to my dissatisfaction in this thing I spend a lot of time doing.
Mhm, mhm.
He helped me say, "No, this isn't just selfish seeking of hedonistic joy for me. It really is critical for being able
Yeah,
to care for other people
yeah,
in my own family and then beyond that too." So,
yeah, yeah. I often tell my athletes, and I have to remind myself, but the most important piece of any equation is you. It's me,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Nothing
mhm,
else will work. And I'm really, when I let those yes, if movement goes by the wayside or sleep or all those self-care things, then I'm really not showing up as my best self for
Mm,
family, patients, everything else suffers
absolutely,
the
yeah.
opposite.
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, and we know that on some level, it certainly is much discussed in modern times, but it's hard to make the choices that keep us in good alignment with those kinds of goals that put on your own oxygen mask first kind of idea
Mhm.
is critically important, and getting deep into the weeds of burnout really was super yucky and uncomfortable,
Yes.
and I
Yep.
want to avoid it, and so now I understand that part of avoiding that kind of discomfort is embracing these other important things.
Mhm. How did you make the time for it? We are very busy people, and I imagine a lot of people think, "I can't take a step back and figure out how to have this whole new routine." And I always encourage people to build things slowly. You don't have to jump all the way into the river.
Right.
Dip your toe first, but how
Mhm.
did you start to get back into a movement routine?
Yeah, I think it really was only possible for me because I was looking at leaving,
Mm, mhm.
and I felt like an urgent need to leave. I just wanted to set my hair on fire and run from the building. I loved being in the exam room, but there was everything else around that was
Mm,
feeling kinda noxious, and I didn't wanna leave in that way, and the first thing for me was I had to mourn a little bit the sort of idealized pediatrician that I thought I was, which was somebody who worked very hard, worked a lot of hours, was very accessible to my patients
mhm.
in the office and sometimes even out of the office. And I had to confront this idea that I was the only one who could fill that need and come to terms with the fact that, gosh, if I weren't there tomorrow,
Yeah.
somebody else would be very capable of stepping in and meeting those needs. Maybe not in exactly the style that I
Yeah.
would, but that there's a lot of capacity outside of me to meet these needs that felt important to meet.
Mhm.
And so that took a little bit of time, and it was a little bit of a process to just really wrap my head around, no, I don't have to be the person that is there all the time.
Yeah.
I have a great team, and I could otherwise build in more capacity with other team members to not need to be there all the time. So that was the first step, and when I started working with my therapist, my schedule, like all of our schedules, is built 3 months out, and so
Mhm, mhm,
nothing changed at all for 3 months, and then I cut 1 day a week from clinic,
mhm, mhm.
and then I tried to rest in that time, but also to do what was joyful,
Yeah.
and often that came down to movement.
Mhm,
Being outside, no matter the weather. So we live half the year, half the time in Bozeman, Montana, and half the time in Washougal, Washington.
mhm.
A solid 6 months of winter in Bozeman, and a solid 6 months of rain in Washougal. And so you can't sit around waiting for the perfect conditions.
Mhm.
Uh, you just have to get outside every day, which is really, I think, probably good for all human animals, but
Mhm.
really important for me, and in that period, 2022 and 2023, we were spending many hours foraging for mushrooms
Mhm.
in the and so it's really basically a slow walk. It's not cardio.
Right, right.
To be out in the rain, dripping wet in your raincoat,
Yeah.
walking slowly and looking at the ground was really an important part of my recovery.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love to be out in the rain as long as you're dressed for it or prepared
Yes.
for it.
No, I
Uh,
think.
yeah, yeah, it's lovely,
I
and
like
so
to run in the rain too,
oh,
but
good.
not torrential downpour, but a light rain is nice.
Yeah, and you're on the East Coast. We do not get the kind of rain that you all get. That kind of torrential downpour.
Yeah.
Montana rain is almost always just
Oh,
spitting.
That's nice.
And I feel like in the Pacific Northwest, of course, we get rain, but it's never struck me as the kind of thing you couldn't be in a raincoat about as opposed to
Yeah,
needing an umbrella. I feel like the East
right.
Coast, you need umbrellas.
Most of the time.
Right.
I
So
think it's funny, any of the times that my husband and I have visited the Pacific Northwest, we've had beautiful sunny weather. Like,
oh, yeah.
we've been to, yeah, Washington and Oregon, and every time we have been there, knock wood, it's been more beautiful there than it was back home. We feel like, "Oh, we could live here."
Yeah, no,
And I
I
had an interesting cross section of time.
right. I have no trouble imagining living here, even though, yeah, there is a half of the year where it does tend to be cloudy and rain at least part of most days. But in the summer, like we're
Oh, it's so
experiencing right now,
lovely.
it's very lovely.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to I we probably visited in spring or fall, so
Mhm. Yeah,
Ni
yeah,
that's very nice. So,
exactly.
well, before I let you go, I wanted to just loop back to a little bit of a mindfulness question.
Mhm.
We alluded to it a little bit at the beginning with the running and the swimming, and you and I were talking about that before, but how does mindfulness show up for you? I feel a little bit of that when you were discussing foraging for the mushrooms and when you're
Mhm.
swimming in natural habitats, but how does mindfulness show up for you, and how do you share that with others?
Yeah, I've had a mindfulness practice of one sort or another since I was 19 years old.
Mm, mhm.
And I took a college honors symposium on alternative healing traditions, and there was maybe 15 of us in the class, and we not only learned about the tradition, but then we practiced the tradition on
I
each
love
other,
this. Okay.
Reiki
Mhm.
on each other and stuff
Uh-huh,
like
uh-huh.
it was really a formative experience. So, I've honed that and I've had a sitting meditation practice for about 15 years.
Mhm.
That's pretty close to daily. But I think really what that practice does for me is just makes me a better noticer. And
Mhm.
so I am noticing my emotional interior often, maybe not doing a good job of it when I was in that period of burnout and depression. It was just hard to access some of my mindfulness skills around then. But in general, I feel like that's what it brings to me. I can notice the very small changes in my emotional interior. I can notice what is lighting that up and
Mhm.
feel good. And I also am getting much better at noticing the things that make me bristle, even quietly on the inside. And I'm trying to learn from that.
Mhm.
And then I teach it every day that I practice. I am prescribing and demonstrating what I call mindfulness games because I think mindfulness and
Mhm, mhm,
meditation conjure for people this idea of focusing on your breath. And most of my patients who I'm prescribing mindfulness to have anxiety
mhm.
and an anxious person to focus on their breathing. It's not a good way to do mindfulness. It's just if you
Yeah.
asked me to, right, I'd just be like, "Now my breathing is not right. Now why is it doing that? And why is it herky-jerky?" And I try to get away from that word mindfulness, which has a big identity in popular culture right now, and I
Yeah.
don't wanna trigger any of those associations, so I do a lot of teaching of various strategies, some like just fake laughing.
Mhm,
Fake laughing releases endorphins just like real laughing, and
mhm,
3 or 4 minutes of fake laughing into the mirror once you get over that being odd can
mhm,
be a really nice way to lift your spirits and also enhance your focus. So when I have kids who really struggle to get their homework done after school, first I say, "Yeah, you need some downtime
It
after school."
yeah.
I can't work all day and then come home and just dig into work, right?
Mhm.
Even though we do that as adults, we shouldn't do it either.
Exactly.
But then I prescribe this fake laughing and then sit down and do your homework.
Mhm,
And I like to teach people about listening meditation,
mhm,
which is really just making yourself as comfy as you can in whatever way, whether that's laying down and covering up with a blanket and putting a pillow under your head and your knees or whatever it means for you. First, attending to your soft little animal body
Mhm.
and making it physically comfortable, and then closing your eyes and just noticing what you hear for 5 minutes.
Mhm.
It is, I think, more accessible for me, especially when I'm anxious or feeling out of sorts, and I think more accessible to a lot of my patients. And it's a way to just stop the snowball rolling down the hill and getting bigger and bigger and bigger of anxiety. Doesn't mean that the anxiety won't be there when you're done with your listening meditation,
Mhm. Mhm.
but you will have sapped some of its energy. And if we can learn to do that over and over through our day and through our life, then the quality of our existence is improved just through a really simple practice like that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that you prescribe them. I do something similar, and I don't really call them mindfulness either. I will say, I have some exercises you can try. And I described like we have physical exercise, and this is more like a mental exercise.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, tell everybody where they can find you. And you have a new podcast that is dropping very soon, which I'm very
I
excited
do,
about.
I do. Still practicing, which you were so lovely as to come on and be a guest, which I really enjoyed. Launches a week from today, August 20th. And I get to talk with pediatricians and an occasional other clinician about their experiences around burnout and career crafting, and really mostly about what brings them joy and nourishment and fun and sustains them. And it's been a real treat to get to hear lots of stories, and I hope to get to hear lots more. That will be in all the places podcasts are
Mhm.
starting next week. And if people are looking to find me on social media, that's Sue Daniels MD,
Great.
and that's Instagram and most of the others. So yeah,
All right. I will leave both the podcast and your Instagram handle in the show notes.
that sounds great.
Thank you so much for joining me.
And I hope that you and I get to work together and someday get to do Run Disney together.
Yes, yes. And I think I need to come out and swim in that river, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yep. It is worth the trip for sure.
Well, thanks again. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the podcast so that we can reach and encourage others to tie on their sneakers and join us out there on a run. See you next time.